Hi, I'm Walker&Williams, and today I've got a Hedera Hashgraph update for you. It's been a while, so I'm going to jump straight in because there is a lot to talk about and a lot of exciting stuff happening in the space as well. So straight into it, point number one, Shane Higdon, who of course is the founder of the HBAR Foundation. He's kind of the big boss at the HBAR Foundation, which helps promote Hedera, completely separate to Hedera Hashgraph. For the HBAR Foundation, they give the grants and loans to businesses and companies and people who are looking to develop and grow projects and companies and businesses on the Hedera network. And that's that guy. So he's the big boss. He announced three new GC, that's governing council members, at SmartCon 22, according to Hedera Hashcast. So Hedera Hashcast are a couple of guys on Twitter, and they put a tweet out that didn't get too much traction, but it certainly got my attention, that apparently, according to these guys, and I hadn't come across them before, I have to be honest, as the ecosystem gets bigger and bigger, it's nice to come across whole little pockets within the ecosystem that you've never come across before. And so these guys claimed in a tweet that Shane Higdon had said at this conference, SmartCon, that there were 3 new governing council members going to be announced soon. So of course, I jumped straight over to Chainlink. Chainlink is the company, the platform that has SmartCon, that holds SmartCon as their event. I went over to their website, and sure enough, there's all the videos on their website. Being a digital event, you'd like to think that they record everything, they film everything, they stream everything, which they do. They have their own YouTube channels, got loads and loads of followers. I'll put a link in the description below. And sure enough, there's all the videos of the speakers. Now, the first thing to say is that Shane is confirmed on Chainlink's website as a speaker. So the guys are right that he was definitely there and he was speaking. So that's good, sort of first tick in the box. Because, by the way, I'm doing this investigation because I can't find any corroborating evidence with what these guys are saying. I'm not saying they're lying, but I don't want to embarrass myself by saying something that isn't true. And I want to know from a personal standpoint too, because it is big news. 3 governing council members. You know, maybe they release all of them at once, which would be, wow, overwhelming. Maybe it's drip feeding one at a time, who knows? So, is it true? And we haven't had a governing council member for a long time now, so we're really overdue one. So having 3 in one go would really make up for the period that we haven't had any new governing council members. So Chainlink website confirms that Shane was a speaker at the event. And then we move over here. I looked through 8 hours, 34 minutes and 11 seconds of the day 1 live stream. So on day 1, they're filming the whole show. It was 8 hours, 34 minutes and 11 seconds long. I looked through the whole thing, no Shane. Okay, so I went through this second day, which was only 3 hours, 5 minutes and 1 second of the day 2 stream. And guess what? No Shane. I cannot find a video, and if you guys, you internet detectives, if you find a video of Shane doing the talk at Chainlink's SmartCon 22, it's only just happened. If you can find it, please let me know in the comments below. But I cannot find a video of Shane speaking. So I'm starting to think that these guys are a bit crazy. Maybe Shane was a speaker and couldn't make it for whatever reason, and actually it's their imaginations have run wild, to put it politely, and it's just not true. And then I saw a tweet from Shane himself to Hedera Hashcast, and the tweet says, and this is a direct quote, the tweet was from Shane on October 1st saying, "To be clear, the full council has not approved yet, but the membership committee, MCOM, has." So I messaged Shane. Once I saw this, I thought, okay, well, this is coming from the horse's mouth. It's legit. The guys have slightly misunderstood what he said, but there's no smoke without fire. And nevertheless, there are 3 potential governing council members who've made it through to the final round before they get approved. And so, as you can imagine, they must get inundated with applications to become a governing council member. They have to vet the people at a lower level, and then, you know, a few make it through and they go through them in a bit more detail, and the due diligence gets, you know, sort of more and more intense the higher you go. You're one step away. When you need approval from the existing governing council member, it means that you've got through all the different rings to get to the final sort of big boss. And so So it's not a done deal yet, but it's as close as you can get without being a done deal. And this is from Shane himself. So we're just waiting for the governing council member, who are meeting shortly, by the way, for the first time in person. I know my friend, Dr. Carsten Sorensen from the London School of Economics. I did an interview with him. I'll put a link in the description below. And I know he was super excited because they hadn't had, since he's been a governing council member, they haven't had a physical meeting. So really, really exciting. And hopefully at that physical meeting, this will be discussed, and these 3 new governing council members will be proposed to the governing council, and they will approve them. And then shortly after, we'll know exactly who they are. If you have any idea who these 3 governing council member applicants might be, or who you'd like them to be, please leave a comment in the description below. And also we'll have a conversation about it, because I know I've got some of my fan favorites. Regardless of what you think of Elon Musk, I think SpaceX would be an absolutely fantastic addition, both for them and for Hedera Hashgraph on the governing council member. And I have a few others too. I think PayPal will be another really great one. Apple, of course. So if you have some fan favorites, let me know in the comments below. Okay, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll already, and I'm getting better and better at doing the Twitter bird. I hope you appreciate that. It looks more like a bath duck at the moment, but I'm getting there. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll already know 2 things. Number 1 day after my first year anniversary on Twitter, I reached 10,000 followers. So thank you so much to everybody who does follow me on Twitter at Walker&Williams. I really appreciate all your support. I really do. I create this content because I really want to give people the opportunity to be, healthy, wealthy, and happy. So, and I hope that does that for you. And the more people that follow me, the more the message spreads, and the more I get invited to opportunities and the like. And so it's a really, really positive thing. I truly believe that. So thank you really so much. 1 year, 10,000 followers, not bad. Okay, number 2, the other thing that you'll know if you follow me on Twitter, at Walker&Williams, is that Utopian Lab, my business, has started working with the amazing Castle Fine Art and Washington Green and their artists to create the greatest NFTs the world has ever seen. So we formed Utopian Lab. I formed it with, as a co-founder with some of the greatest coders and developers in the world, in my opinion. I knew these guys for a long time, and when this opportunity came about, I've always been a tech geek. I wanted to invite these guys and said, look, you guys know how to code all sorts of things. I know business, I have contacts and a little bit of money. Let's come together and see if we can form something. And that's how Utopian Lab was born. If you want to follow Utopian Lab on Twitter, they're utopian_lab. Or if you want to look at the website, it's utopianlab.com. And so we came together, and we've been pitching, as again, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know, we've been pitching our offering to loads of different companies, some of the largest and best brands and businesses in the world. And one of whom that we've gone all the way through the process through, we've gone through legals, we've done all that. We can now talk about them openly. We've got 3 or 4 more in the pipeline. Some are incredibly close. In fact, one of them, I really hope that we land both for the Hedera Hashgraph community, for myself personally, and for Utopian Lab. And to put their size in perspective, the entire NFT crypto industry turned over $20 billion last year. So 2021, NFT equals 20 billion industry. So last year, $20 billion worth, American dollars, worth of NFTs were sold. The customer that we are very close to securing to creating NFTs exclusively on the Hedera Hashgraph turned over $15 billion last year. So this one client of ours turnover was 75% of the entire NFT industry. So it kind of just shows you things don't happen in small little increments in my mind. There is a lot of small work going on in the background, me going to meetings and pitches and talking and practicing and all that stuff. But it's huge quantum leaps. Hedera Hashgraph doesn't exist, then it does. The internet doesn't exist, and then it does. And then we have Web 2, Web 3, and it's the big leaps. And then there's a plateaus and a big leap. And I really hope that Utopian Lab in its own way can help the Hedera NFT community and ecosystem make one of those huge leaps, with a massive use case or multiple massive use cases like that. So Castle Fine Art and Washington Green. Washington Green are the largest publisher in the publication IP company in the country, in the UK. And between them, Castle Fine Art, Halcyon Group, and Washington Green, they're probably one of, if not the largest art gallery group in the world. We can now talk about it, and I hope you've been following me on Twitter and seeing, I did a tour of their head offices the other day. That was really exciting. And we met with the first 3 artists that we're going to be working with in partnership with our friends to create some of the most amazing NFTs. Now, what's really special about this for me, one of the other things that I was going to put on here, and I decided not to, but now I'm going to talk about it. Last night, there was a Spaces. If you don't know what a Spaces is, basically on Twitter, you can start a conversation and people can jump into the conversation on Twitter and listen to it. And the sound starts coming out your mobile phone or your computer or whatever device you're listening on. So it's like watching this YouTube video, but it's live. So I'm talking, you can't see me, but you can hear my voice. And then other people can jump in, and you can have up to 10 speakers, and everybody puts their hand up, takes turns to speak, and then you have an audience of listeners. I was one of the audience of listeners last night, and HBAR Foundation had a Spaces. There was about 249 people in the space, and loads of people were talking away, and it was really interesting actually. They were talking about NFTs specifically. And towards the end of the Spaces, the HBAR Foundation asked a question of the speakers. I wasn't one, but they asked a question of the speakers, and it frustrated me a little bit, I think, if I'm being completely honest, which I always am with you guys. The question was, how does the HBAR Foundation and Hedera, and together and apart, how do they increase the NFT, Hedera Hashgraph NFT community? Somebody, I did put it here, look, HBAR Foundation Spaces, how more NFT, 5,000 users. And what they were saying is there's roughly 5,000 active people buying and selling NFTs on the Hedera Hashgraph platform, which is a minute number of people. There are many companies, you know, that have far more employees than 5,000, let alone an entire ecosystem or an industry. So they were saying, how can we create a much bigger NFT space on the Hedera Hashgraph? And I think that time, I've said this many times, I think that time is on Hedera Hashgraph's side. I believe that in time, people will come over to Hedera Hashgraph as they sort of go through the different filters. So the Ethereum, they're not in crypto, they come into crypto or into NFTs, they go through the Ethereum filter, they have an awful experience, and they come out and land on Hedera. But that's a very slow process. And what I would have said if I was one of the speakers last night, which I think is a really important point, and I hope the HBAR Foundation get to hear this answer, and that is that it's 2 things. One, it's a very slow process. Treating the NFT ecosystem as a zero-sum game, i.e. for Hedera to win, we want to pinch somebody from Ethereum or Trezor or any of the other platforms, whoever it may be, it doesn't matter. It's very slow, and it's a very small community. They turned over $20 billion. It's a lot of money, but not compared to other industries. So you're trying to fish in the same pond as all the other fishermen. So you have people who are into NFTs, it's a $20 billion pond, and all these different rods are in the water trying to catch these fish. And Hedera is just saying, how do we make our rod better? How do we, and all of the answers to the question were, well, let's get a bigger rod. Let's make it more experienced. Let's offer anyone who takes one of our fishing rods, let's offer them a nicer seat or whatever. But they're just sort of, and all that helps. I don't want to poo-poo the whole thing. You know, they were saying, to not use the fishing analogy, some of the speakers were saying, well, the community is really, really welcoming, which I completely agree with. And, you know, we just want to encourage that. We need to make sure that when people come to Hedera Hashgraph and they have questions, that people are answering those questions and they're helping and showing how to mint an NFT and how to open a wallet. And that's already helpful and very true. But Hedera Hashgraph isn't special in its community. They're a great community and they're a special community, but it's that behavior, that welcoming behavior is not unique. If you go to XDC or Quant or any of those communities, none of them are saying, if you go into any of those communities on Twitter, on YouTube or in forums, on Reddit, and you say, hi, I'm thinking of buying NFTs or creating NFTs or building something on this platform, none of them are saying, no, get lost, we don't want you, we don't want your type. It's a very welcoming community as a whole. So yes, it's important, but it's not going to really solve the problem. We're not going to get the quantum leap that the HBAR Foundation was asking about. So my answer would have been, why fish in this little pond for other NFT projects in the space? And that kind of comes down to a point that I make later about Hedera taking over NFT NYC, the largest NFT in real life physical event, which is held in New York every year. Hedera Hashgraph sponsored the thing, they took over the whole thing, their adverts were everywhere, which was amazing and fantastic. But we can't sit back on our laurels then if we're going to grow this ecosystem, because we're only advertising to people who are already customers of NFTs. And it's very difficult to, number one, it's a very slow process. Number two, it's a very small pond. And number three, it's very hard to convince people, even if you have a better offering, it's very hard to convince people who are already in the space with someone else. And think about it. If you're an Apple iPhone customer, what would it take for Samsung to take you away from Apple and to Samsung Mobile? What would it take if you've always worn Nike trainers, Nike tracksuit? What would it take for Adidas to get you to lose the Nike trainers, buy Adidas trainers and buy an Adidas tracksuit? It would take almost anything. If you love Jaguar combustion engine sports cars, what would Tesla have to do? Now, Nike, Adidas, Apple, Samsung, Tesla, these are all brands I'm pretty sure everybody in the world has heard of, but not everybody in the world is a customer of, because they already have a car, because they already wear trainers and they like Nike. And they might even agree, not very often I found on Twitter, but sometimes they even agree that Hedera Hashgraph is better technology, or that Nike make better trainers, but I'm an Adidas guy, I'm an Apple girl. So yes, I believe that it's a good thing and it's money well spent in advertising in these spaces, and yes, the community should be helpful and so on and so forth. But the point everybody missed on the spaces last night, and everybody seems to be missing, with all due respect, on the Hedera platform with the NFT space, is this. It's the $15 billion turnover companies. It's real world use cases. So how many people bought art last year, and what's the art industry worth? $1 trillion. Right, so we have $1 trillion industry, 99.99999% of the people in which are active and like the medium and like the concept of art and investment of art and appreciate art, but don't have or own any cryptocurrency or any NFTs. Those are the people who will buy trainers for the first time, and they're far more likely to quickly, there's more of them, and they're far more quickly buy a pair of Nike trainers or Adidas trainers, depending on who does the better advertising to them, than to try and convert somebody who's already in the space. And it's companies like Utopian Lab and others building on the space that need the support if you want to see the Hedera Hashgraph NFT space explode. Just imagine our customer, £15 billion turnover customer. The industry they're in is high value stuff, and the people that are their customers are pretty savvy, tech savvy, they get it. The minute we advertise, Utopian Lab advertise to those guys in partnership with our client, they're going to be buying those things up, and then there's going to be a whole new ecosystem within an ecosystem that is Hedera Hashgraph. So why don't we try and get 10 of those use cases? That would take Hedera Hashgraph from 5,000 active users. I mean, Castle Fine Art and Washington Green alone, their customer base is in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions. If 10% of their existing client base were to buy one NFT, we 10x the number of users on the Hedera Hashgraph with one use case, one company, one Utopian Lab, one use case, one customer, boom. So that's my kind of point on that. Thank you very much for following me on Twitter. I hope that makes sense, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to sort of advertise my own business, but I really wanted to make that point for the good of the whole community. If you want lots of people in the space, you've got to advertise to where lots of people are. Okay, moving over. So Changpeng, I don't know how to say his surname, and I respect him too much to try, but he's fondly known as CZ in the community. He's the owner, CEO, founder of Binance. If you don't know, where have you been the whole time, but Binance is one of, if not the largest cryptographic exchanges. So it's where you can go to buy your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your HBAR, your XDC, your Algorand, whatever you want, your algo. Massive person, massive business, obviously. And he is the keynote speaker, he himself in person is the keynote speaker at TechCrunch's crypto sessions. So there's a company called TechCrunch, like a tech magazine. They hold an in real life physical event every year in Miami. It's on November the 17th in Miami. If you're near Miami and you're at HBarbarian, I strongly suggest, or you're into crypto in general and NFTs and all that stuff, I suggest you have a look at it if you're close, or you've got time and money to travel, because I've never been to Miami, but it's supposed to be fantastic. So it's live November 17th, and he's the speaker. He has a personal net worth estimated of $65 billion. That's him personally, 65 billion. And Binance completed 37 trillion with a T. 34 trillion with a T in crypto last year. So in crypto transactions, you add up how much was bought and sold in 2021, just on Binance, it totaled $34 trillion. So he's going to be speaking at this event, and the speech he's doing, one of the most influential people in crypto, well, of course he is, his talk is brought to you and sponsored by Hedera Hashgraph. And I really, really like this because, as per my last point, this talk is not just to the very relatively small NFT community, it's to the whole crypto space. That's investment banks. It's still not people who have no involvement whatsoever that we should be advertising to, in my opinion, but it's a wider audience, a much larger audience. And obviously you can imagine a guy who's worth, forget all his knowledge and all that stuff, a guy who's worth $65 billion, he's going to get he's going to draw a massive audience, and the whole thing is sponsored by and brought to you courtesy of Hedera Hashgraph. So I was really, really happy to see that. And again, it's not been picked up that much online, but I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's a fantastic point. Okay, coming to the last point, summer is now over, and so Oliver Thorne, he works at Hedera, he wrote a really good roundup type blog on the Hedera Hashgraph website. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And basically it got me thinking, and I thought, yeah, we're going into autumn, Halloween's just around the corner, then we're into Christmas. So let's just take a second to reflect. And I really enjoyed reading his article. And so I looked into some of the things that he talked about, and I kind of just wanted to cover his article with my kind of angle, my opinion on it. Okay, so Hedera took over NFT NYC, which was visually amazing, and effects are still being felt on socials, etc. So I'm still seeing videos of people. I don't know if you're familiar with Times Square, you probably are. There's lots and lots of digital screens, and NFT NYC for the week that they're in New York, Manhattan Island, they take over New York Square effectively, and they rent all the screens, and then sponsors have their names up on them. And Hedera must have thrown big bucks at it because they covered the whole thing. If you haven't seen it, I'll try and put a clip in this video now. Hopefully Billy managed to find a clip, and yeah, it's just amazing. So it was absolutely amazing, and I'm still seeing the videos of people reminiscing about it, and it was everywhere. So there was no way that anybody who attended NFT NYC doesn't know about Hedera Hashgraph. Now, I don't know what that looks like in numbers. What was the ROI? I'm sure Hedera do, and it'll be very, very interesting to see if they're sponsoring it again next year, because that'll be a great indication of how they felt. So what kind of spike in engagement or return they got on their money invested in the advertising and the sponsorship. But for me, if I was in charge of how some of the money spent, I would definitely, I'm not saying all, but I would definitely be investing more money in advertising too, and bringing people in from that are outside of the NFT community already, for the reasons I've already said. Okay, Twitter allowed certified NFT PFPs. I love saying that. Twitter allowed certified NFT PFPs. What's a PFP? A PFP basically is just short for profile picture. So I'm sure you're familiar with Twitter, even if you're not on it. You have your profile, and you have a little round circle, and you can have whatever you want on it. Picture of your grandkids, picture of a dog, whatever you want. And you can have an NFT in your profile picture. And if you own the NFT, you get a little tick to let other people know that you haven't just right-clicked, you actually own that picture, which is really important for social signaling and loads of other reasons, and just helps reinforce the whole point of NFTs in the first place. It's a real world, and it's digital, but it's a real world example. I want to let you know I'm single, I'm not, but I'm single, and I'm ready to get myself out there, and I want a social signal to ladies that I'm very successful, and so I'm going to buy this £150,000 really well known David Beckham NFT, but I need you to know it's the real one, it's legitimate, because otherwise, who cares? It could just be a photo of me leaning on a Ferrari. Doesn't mean I actually own the Ferrari. But Twitter have done away with that, and they've allowed people now to have a tick that means that they own the NFT. But there's a snag. Because it's early days, of course, they're only sort of facilitating it for Ethereum. So what did Hedera do? Well, they used their own technology to get around it. So Hedera managed to mint an NFT on Hedera Hashgraph using the Hashpack browser wallet and hash access for just over $1. So for just over $1, they minted an NFT using the companies that I've just named, then took it over to the Ethereum network using Hashport. Then by buying tokens with Doview, the whole process was carbon negative. So amazing. So if you don't know too much about NFTs and crypto, I'm sure you do. I won't bore you with it if you do. You can mint a NFT on the Ethereum network directly with them. It'll cost you anywhere between $10 and, no joke, $350, depending on how busy the network is. And that's for one NFT, by the way. And then you've got an NFT minted directly with and on the Ethereum network. Or you could mint an NFT on the Hedera Hashgraph network. Oftentimes it'll cost you a lot less than $1, but in this particular circumstance and the way they've done it, it costs just over $1. And then you can port it effectively over to the Ethereum network. So Twitter recognizes it as an ERC20 compliant NFT, which is the Ethereum language, if you like, and it gives you the tick. But it was minted on Hedera for far less, a fraction of the money. And also by using Dovu, that's D-O-V-U, you can Google them. They bought some credits, some tokens with them, and the whole thing was carbon negative. So that's amazing. So it just shows, and by the way, if you're interested, there's loads of videos showing exactly in great detail on Hedera, on YouTube, on the Hedera website, hedera.com, and loads of other places. You can actually see that process. There's loads of people talking about how it went step by step. So if you're interested in that, I definitely check that out. Whilst the crypto and NFT specific markets have been collapsing in terms of volume and price after, I can't read my own writing, after launch, in January 2022, Zeus market hit 10 million in volume, and 6 months later, they hit another 20 million in volume, and then 2 weeks after that, 10 million in volume. So, okay, what do I mean? So at the moment, we all know I'm scared to look out the window because of the storm that is the crypto market. Everything is down considerably. It's a fantastic opportunity to buy, awful time to sell, so I really hope you don't have to, and I strongly suggest you don't sell unless you feel you absolutely have to. But while that's going on, of course, I've talked about it loads of times in other videos, while the price is down, interest drops too. People who come into the space, as an investment, just as a punt, that sort of thing, prices start to drop, interest drops too. And it happens with everything. It's not special to crypto. If the price of gold is going through the roof, all the newspapers are talking about gold going through the roof. Other people start talking about gold going through the roof. More people buy gold, the price goes up, and so on and so forth. So the higher the price, the quicker it rises, the more people get in and talk about it. So whilst crypto's crashed, the interest in the crypto markets has crashed too. And so in terms of actual sale prices, so what each NFT is selling for on average, and the number of NFTs selling, that's the volume, they're both down considerably. But despite that, the NFT platform, the largest NFT platform on Hedera Hashgraph, Zeus Market, launched in January of this year. And within 6 months, they'd hit $20 million in transactions, which is very, very small. As I've said, it's a $20 billion industry. So 20 million is quite small, but that was in their first 6 months. And it's during a bear market. But this is the interesting bit, and this is what I'm talking about with the quantum leaps and the jumps, and things don't do this in life; they do that. It's a long process in business of not making any money and going without all the time, and then people often give up here, and then all of a sudden you take off, and it's the same with technology. So whilst the world around us is burning and collapsing and falling apart, these guys launch, and okay, 20 million in 6 months isn't loads, but it's still a sizable amount, but a month later, so first 6 months, they transacted a volume of $20 million. The 7th month, they did another $20 million. And then 2 weeks after that month, they did another $10 million. So you can just see the way it's going, and it's just going to get stronger as the market comes back. The boat that sort of got the engine is going out, despite the tides the tide's going against you. And then the minute the tide starts to go with you, it'll really take off. So that'll be really fantastic to see. November 21 to August 22, there was a 300, so I said that quite quickly, from November 2021 to August 2022, there has been a 300% increase of NFTs minted on Hedera Hashgraph. So across the whole system, across the whole ecosystem, on the whole platform, not just with Zeus, but everywhere, there's been a 300% increase. And again, this is all during this bear market. So that's really, really cool to see. June 22 to August 22, so really recently, June 2022 to August 2022, there has been a 200% increase alone. Wow, so it just shows you the way it's going, and again, in a bear market. Number of daily active users has increased by 200% in the last month. So I was just having a look at the stats, and I was looking at Hedera's website, and I was just, sort of looking around for bits to pick up on for the making of this video. And again, it's just said like a throwaway comment, and no one sort of seems to pick up on it or do anything about it, which is a bit of a shame. But the whole industry is like, woe is me, everyone's leaving. All of the stats, it doesn't matter which project you're in, all of the stats are down, except one project, Hedera Hashgraph. The number of daily active users. So not the number of users, and Hedera are creating their own accounts, these bot accounts, and they're just sitting there. No. The number of daily active users has increased by 200% just in the last month. So that's really, really impressive. And you can see the way things are, because success compounds. DeFi, so decentralized finance. So that's things like lending money, staking your cryptocurrencies, and all that sort of stuff. Decentralized finance has also launched on Hedera this year. And the first sort of big player in the space is a company called SaucerSwap. I did what I think is a pretty good video and an even better picture of a spaceship of that video. So if you want to see that one, just click the link in the description below and I cover the whole thing. But SaucerSwap, launched this year it was the first sort of large DeFi project, and within days, $10 million had been, and within days, not months, days, $10 million worth of Hedera Hashgraph and other things had been traded on the platform. Today, it's only been, I think, 5 or 6 months. Today, even less than that maybe, it's 40 million. So it's fourfold with 231,449 trades that have taken place and completed. Active daily DeFi accounts, so accounts that have been opened and are used every single day on the Hedera Hashgraph network that are specifically for DeFi, for decentralized finance, on Hedera Hashgraph. There was 471 accounts. It's pathetic. I've got more passwords than that. There were 471 accounts in July of this year. In September, there were 6,512. So there are only 471 active accounts, 471 people using their account every single day on Hedera Hashgraph for something in DeFi, decentralized finance. Just in September, a few months later, 6,512 accounts. The last point, LG, this is a really big one because a lot of people say, Hedera Hashgraph, great, good tech, but the governing council, why don't Google just come out and say, Hedera Hashgraph's fantastic, we're going to be doing everything in the future on Hedera Hashgraph, and bam, magic wand, silver bullet, off we go, $10 a HBAR. And it's a really, really good question. And the only answer I can give, which is pretty frustrating, but it's the only one I've found that's genuine and legitimate, having interviewed some of the, being lucky enough and fortunate enough to interview some of the governing council representatives personally, the only thing I can say is they're very, very large organizations, which is fantastic because they are Google and they're all the companies that we want to have as a governing council member for all of the reasons I've covered in many videos before. But there's also a downside to that, and that is that they move incredibly slowly. I've found that personally with Utopian Lab. I think it was about 2 years of talks with the Washington Green and Castle Fine Art and Halcyon Group. It was about 2 years of talks before we got anywhere near anything formal. And so it really, and they're a big company, but then they're not the size of Google. And sometimes even in Google, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. You'll see sometimes a snippet on Google and they're saying, oh, we're considering doing something on Ethereum. But that guy is a sub-department of a sub-department of a sub-department that has no idea that Google, the company he works for, is a governing council member on Hedera. And it is frustrating, I get it, I understand completely. But it will come, it will definitely come, and LG have done me a massive favor by proving my point precisely. Many years after becoming a governing council member, LG have launched the artlab.com. I think, by the way, LG saw my company's name, Utopian Lab, and thought, that's cool, we'll have a bit of that. So they called themselves artlab.com. And so they brought out a TV, and they basically, the developers, the incredible developers at LG said, okay, let's make a display monitor for art. And once we've made the perfect art display monitor, make it a TV. So it's very much art-led, this TV. It's super, super thin, sits flush to your wall, even with the mount, it's got a sort of hollow bit internally that sits, it's fantastic. It's really, really well designed. I think they're priced at about $2,500 at the moment, so they're expensive, but I think they represent really good value for money. I truly believe that. And they've started lgartlab.com, and so they're going to be promoting NFT artists and showing NFTs on their TVs and promoting them as canvases, as picture frames for people's homes that can also be functional in the sense that they can be TVs. So what an incredible thing. Now, which is the easiest route to market for LG? Clearly at the moment, if you just put your moral compass aside for 1 second in terms of, carbon footprint and all that sort of stuff, which is the easiest route to market? Well, it's Ethereum, because that's where 90% of all of the transactions take place. It's a little pond, don't forget, but it's where 90% of the fish are, is at that end of the pond. It's called Ethereum. Yeah, but it's really slow, it's really expensive, and it's killing the planet. Yeah, but it's where all the customers are. So that's one route you could take. Or you could say, actually, we're the governing council member of this project. We believe in the project 100%. And so we're going to launch this incredible piece of equipment, and you can only have NFTs on it at the moment that are on the Hedera Hashgraph network. So I think as we start to see the likes of your Washington Greens and Newcastle Fine Arts coming into the Hedera Hashgraph space, and then you've got and this is with the digital content, and then you've got the physical hardware, you've got the software and the hardware coming in from companies as big and as cool as LG, I think we're on the precipice of seeing some pretty amazing growth in the Hedera ecosystem. I truly, truly believe that. I've been talking about it for a year, and now finally I'm starting to see what I've been saying. Check my videos a year ago, and I was saying we will see this happen. It's finally starting to come through, and we're starting to see it in real life. I hope you found this update interesting. It's a bit different. I haven't really mentioned the price. What's the point? It's been 5 pence or 7 cents for like what seems like years, because a week in real life is like a year in crypto, and so there's no really point me telling you something you already know. It is what it is, and so I thought I'd just look at some of the utility, because as I've always said, and it should be my slogan, utility will win in the end. Thanks ever so much for watching. I'll see you soon.